Star Wars Rebels is the second Star Wars animated show to be shown on TV, and the first part of media that Disney released since they acquired Star Wars from George Lucas. This TV show is a replacement for the Clone Wars since they had to stop it for some reason, and I think that that's why I have mixed feelings about it. Now, I would go into the story of Rebels, but much like the Clone Wars, there are so many stories in it that I cannot explain them all here. So, much like I said I would do with the Clone Wars, once I've finished my review of Rise of Skywalker, I will start planning single episode reviews of Rebels. So, why do I have mixed feelings about this show? Well, I think it's mainly because, although it's a kids show, much like the Clone Wars was, it's not very dark and gritty like Clone Wars. Now, this would be fine and I would accept that if they didn't add all these characters from other Star Wars media like Ahsoka, Darth Maul and especially Grand Admiral Thrawn. It's basically a kids show with characters that the kids wouldn't understand the reason of them being in the show and why that was so special. It's just a new character for them to watch. For me, the first season didn't do much for me because it was introducing our characters and setting up the show and there wasn't a lot going on. But when the second season started and we got more Ahsoka and Darth Vader come in, then I started to get interested. But only in the episodes that they were in, and anything else I just found boring because it was just basic stories after each episode where they just have an objective, go and do that objective and then it's done. There are no consequences for what they have done and it doesn't get followed up at all. The third season is where we got more about Maul and I really enjoyed this as well, and although I didn't know much about him at the time when Rebels was being shown, I really enjoyed Grand Admiral Thrawn. And now that I know more about him because I've read the Thrawn book and I'm currently reading the second one, I can see why he was such a big deal to older Star Wars fans that read the Heir to the Empire books that released after Return of the Jedi came out. But this series feels like it's filling a lot of the plot gaps from what Clone Wars left behind when it was cancelled. This means they bring back clones like Rex, Walther and Gregor, as well as Ahsoka Tano, just to show visually that she survived Order 66. But the issue with that is, they don't really explain what happened to them in great detail, if at all. We know that Rex, Walther and Gregor removed their inhibitor chips, but for some reason Gregor became a little bit loopy because of it. It doesn't explain how Gregor survived the Rhydonian blast, and it doesn't explain how Rex found out about the inhibitor chip. All he says was that they did it, and all the clones had a choice, which then asks the question, why didn't all the clones do this if they knew about the inhibitor chip? I know this will probably be explained in Season 7 of Clone Wars, but at the time of watching this series first, we didn't know that the Clone Wars was coming back, so this didn't really make much sense. But aside from the returning characters, there isn't much else of any substance in this show. It's a show that's made for kids, and you can see that, because you don't see anyone actually die in this movie. Now, stormtroopers are an exception because they are wearing armour, but anyone who has a face will not die on screen, and this is something that I loved about Clone Wars. Although it was a kids show, it made some really dark turns to the show, that Sith are brutal and there is no sugarcoating what it's like. This is not the same here, and for a show that wants to be like the Clone Wars and be like what it was, I think it's a bit of a downgrade. Now, I don't hate this show, and I would even say it's okay and I can understand why kids like it. But most parts of me personally, I can't get any enjoyment out of it because nothing of substance happens. I also want to make the point, and I'll explain this more in my A New Hope review, that Rebels makes the rebellion seem like terrorists, because they are stealing things from the government on a planet and blowing up their equipment and vehicles as well as killing their soldiers that are meant to be the local defense force for the planet. This is really odd, especially for a kid show that's supposed to be portraying the Empire as the bad guys and the Rebels as the good guys. And I suppose you can say, well, it's a kids show and they won't realise this, but this show has got characters in it that will make the older fans want to watch it, and living in today's society, they will absolutely definitely recognise it. But again, if you like this, I can see where you're coming from, because I can see why people might think it's good as well. But for me, this series is only good for watching the characters I know and love, and skipping the rest.